Anyway, have you spoken to any of your lecturers yet?
No, but I got emailed a whole list of stuff, about 15 pages in all. The book list goes on and on. There are about 56 books we need for research, and that doesn't include reference books.
Good job you've got the whole year to read them. You should have taken my course. I've only got a few books down on my list, and half of them are optional. Most of the material is online. Did they send you any information on the coursework for the year?
Yes, but the last 2 essays were missing some information. Apparently, they are updating some of the assignments, and we'll be told later on this term. It's not all essays, though. Next month, we've got to sign up for a big field trip to Egypt in April. We're there for a 10-day tour of the rock tombs and the pyramids along the Nile, and we get to observe and assist in a dig. Then, when we get back, we have to write it all up in a report.
Lucky you. You get to go on a holiday while we are studying. Our coursework isn't that exciting. We're doing an ongoing project on business management throughout the year, which includes designing a lot of questionnaires, graphs, bar charts, that sort of stuff. We have to work in the same groups throughout the year, so everyone must pull their weight. And at the end of the year, there is a big team PowerPoint presentation on the project, and then individual presentations in which we assess our performance within the group and any ways we could have improved it.
Good morning, everyone. So, you're going to tell me about your presentation. First of all, what's your topic? Did you say you were going to talk about the uses of mobile phones?
Not exactly. We're actually going to explain the dangers of using mobile phones.
Ah, okay. That sounds interesting. What are you going to discuss exactly?
Well, we've planned to divide the presentation into 3 sections. We'll have an introduction explaining why we think it's important to understand the dangers of mobiles. Then, on the second slide, we'll have a list of the different types of danger. And then on the last slide, we're going to suggest ways of staying out of danger when you use a mobile.
Yes, we want to start by telling the audience that using a mobile phone can be dangerous, and then go into more detail in the next part.
Okay, but before you talk about the dangers of mobiles, I think you should mention the advantages. You could put that in your introduction. It balances up the argument a bit.
Oh, yes. I see what you mean. Right, we'll do that.
Today we're pleased to have on the show Alice Bussell from the Dolphin Conservation Trust. Tell us about the trust, Alice.
Well, obviously its purpose is to protect dolphins in seas all around the world. It tries to raise people's awareness of the problems these marine creatures are suffering because of pollution and other threats. It started 10 years ago, and it's one of the fastest growing animal charities in the country, although it's still fairly small compared with the big players in animal protection. We're particularly proud of the work we do in education. Last year, we visited a huge number of schools in different parts of the country, going round to talk to children and young people aged from 5 to 18. In fact, about 35% of our members are children.
Oh.
The charity uses its money to support campaigns, for example, for changes in fishing policy and so forth. It hopes soon to be able to employ its first full-time biologist with dolphin expertise to monitor populations. Of course, many people give their services on a voluntary basis, and we now have volunteers working in observation, office work and other things. I should also tell you about the award we won from the Charity Commission last year for our work in education. Although it's not meant an enormous amount of money for us, it has made our activities even more widely publicised and understood. In the long term, it may not bring in extra members, but we're hoping it'll have this effect.
Is it possible to see dolphins in UK waters?
Yes, in several locations. And we have a big project in the east part of Scotland. This has long been a haven for dolphins because it has very little shipping. However, that may be about to change soon because oil companies want to increase exploration there. We're campaigning against this because although there'll be little pollution from oil, exploration creates a lot of underwater noise. It means the dolphins can't rest and socialise. This is how I became interested in dolphin conservation in the first place. I had never seen one, and I hadn't been particularly interested in them at school. Then I came across this story about a family of dolphins who had to leave their home in the Moray Firth because of the oil companies, and about a child who campaigned to save them. I couldn't put the book down. I was hooked.
Hi, Justin. What are you doing here? It's not very often I see you in the library.
Yeah, well, I'm afraid I'm not like you, Francis. I've left it all to the last minute, as usual. I've got tons of research left to do, and I've only got until next Friday to finish the first essay Professor Jones gave me on educational psychology. I haven't even looked at the second one on classroom approaches.
So, how far have you got with your essay?
This one? I've nearly finished, but I've got the other two to do.
How about the latest assignment for Professor Evans? You know, the one on the future of education in the classroom.
Yeah, I know the one. Not very far, to be honest. I've started making notes from the books on the book list, but I just don't know where to begin. You got any ideas?
Yeah, a few. I've made a rough plan and have divided the essay into 4 parts. The first part looks at the history of education over the last century. It's important that you provide some background information.
So, what did you include?
I hope you're not planning to steal all my ideas.
Don't be silly. It'll never be as good as yours anyway.
Flattery will get you everywhere. Well, for the background, I included class sizes and demographic, how testing has changed over the years, and different methods of motivation and punishment in the classroom. There wasn't much point in going into detail on teacher training and psychology. I didn't want to go off the topic too much.
Just a minute. Let me make a few notes on that. So, you mentioned background information on classes, testing techniques, motivation and punishment, and teacher training and psychology. Is that right?
No, not the last one. That's too broad a subject. I don't want to go over the word limit.
OK. You've got some really good ideas there. What did you write for the next part?
Thanks. Well, for this part, I looked at the social trends and how they've affected student performance over the last 20 years, and how they are set to change. You know, the increase in one-parent families, changes in interests and hobbies, the influence of migrants in the education system, yeah, that sort of thing.
Slow down, just need to finish this.
OK.
Uh-huh.
Part 3 contrasts modern and traditional approaches in the classroom and how suitable each one is now and will be for future generations. For instance, nowadays the emphasis is on reward rather than punishment. But there are those who believe that we should return to the traditional methods, and that means corporal punishment.
I suppose the last one covers the equipment used in the classroom, including modern technology like smartboards, computer suites.
Yes, that's my last area. I also looked at what sort of changes would be brought about in the classroom. For instance, 3-dimensional images as teaching aids, fully interactive computers on which a number of students can do the same project together, even certain days in the week on which teaching would take place solely online.
How about closing the schools altogether and learning from home? Most kids would like that.
I'm not sure about that. Schools aren't just for learning, they're equally important for building social skills. Anyway, we better go. The seminar's about to begin.
Oh, I'm glad that's over. How do you think you did in the presentation, Sarah?
I don't really know. It's hard to tell. I followed all the instructions on my handout, but when I came to do it, I felt really nervous.
How come? I always thought you'd be a good speaker. Was it because Professor Stone was taking notes, or because we were all watching?
Well, I already knew that you'd all be watching me, so I was prepared for that. But I hadn't thought about him writing anything down. He hardly looked at me. I don't even know if he noticed all the work I'd put into it.
Of course he did. He hardly looked at any of us. Anyway, I'm sure we all felt the same. I certainly did. I'm much happier in front of a computer monitor. I'm not a very confident speaker at the best of times. You know how I hate giving speeches in front of an audience. Remember what I was like when we all had to stand up and talk about ourselves at the beginning of the course? Anyway, what did you think of mine? Be honest.
Well, I was impressed by the visuals. You're certainly good with computers. I wish my PowerPoint was as good as yours. The images conveyed your ideas really clearly, and the background music was great.
You think so? Did you really like it? I changed my mind about the soundtrack at the last minute, but it was too late to do anything about it.
No, the music was perfect. It wasn't too loud either. We could hear you easily right from the back of the room. Next time you can help me with mine. I can never find the right piece of music. My only criticism would be that you read from the screen a bit too much without going into much detail.
You mean that I needed to spend more time on developing my ideas? Yeah, you're right. I spent far too long on the visuals and not enough time on thinking about what I was going to say, and that's why I finished with more than 2 minutes to spare. Got to include more examples in my next one.
Well, I had the opposite problem. I kept going off the point and went well over time. You see, when I'm nervous, I tend to talk too much. I'm bound to lose points from that.
Oh, I don't know. He might give you more for content.
Yeah.
He's always going on about not dropping below the word limit in our written assignments. You know what he's like. More is better.
Oh, I do hope so. He's always so critical about everything I write. I never get more than a B.
Cheer up. We've only done 2 essays so far, and I only got a C in my first one. So how do you think I interacted with the audience?
Well, I don't know about Professor Stone, but we enjoyed it a lot. It was funny in places, but you kept to the point. How about mine?
Well, you did make us feel personally involved, and we did learn a lot, but I must admit some parts were much too long, especially the second slide. That went on for over 5 minutes. We'll both need to work on our timing next time.